Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. As always, I'm with financial planner Canna Campbell, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform that is on Instagram and YouTube, podcast, books, threads, TikTok, keynote speeches and more. Hello, Canna.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well, thank you. This podcast, obviously, I sound like I'm getting into a sponsor message straight away. This podcast brought to you by me. No, this podcast is all about, obviously, financial literacy. We talk about it every week. And we talk often about the fact that it's never too late to start doing things with your money. And it's never too late to start learning about money, about good financial habits, about kind of setting yourself up for the future. It might never be too late, but can it be too early to get going on this? And that's the question that I want to put to you today. How do you start teaching kids about money in a way that's going to help them prepare for the future? You look excited.
Yeah, I am. Well, we talk about money a lot, but in a positive, fun, empowering way. So I'm excited about today's episode.
It felt like you wanted to just to say something like, you are too negative or something like that. It felt like you were going to criticize me just then.
That introduction was very positive, so let's keep going.
It feels like I'm getting marked today on my performance from you. Well, Canna, first question then for you. At what age do you think it's appropriate to start teaching kids about money? Would you start... Again, you're already kind of smiling at me. You were probably kind of doing money lessons like prenatal.
In the womb.
Yeah.
No, every child is so different. You know, some children are creative, some children are mathematical. Like it's some kids are sporty. You've got to obviously use your intuition. But what I say is the moment they start showing interest, capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I look at my son. I actually started quite young with him because he was interested in the concept of saving and investing, whereas my 5-year-old daughter, she loves to shop, you know, she loves Kmart, you know. So I talk to her more about saving. And my 3-year-old is nowhere near ready to start talking about money. So you've got to kind of use your intuition and pick up on the right signals, but capitalize on that with, you know, little bites here and there.
So what you're trying to tell me is that there is no one hard and fast rule.
I think the moment children start wanting things and asking, that's when you can start explaining and having those open conversations. Look, we can't, you know, buy that snack today because, you know, we bought a snack yesterday and, you know, explaining rather than just no, you know, we're not getting another snack. Explain, because that obviously, well, first of all, it diffuses the tantrum that's about to erupt. But you start explaining, you know, the importance of money in helping the family wheels keep going in the right direction, and how we do need to take an element of responsibility and delayed gratification, all those sorts of more further details that come into the whole picture of money in a family unit. Yeah. But, you know, the moment they want things, I think that's a great opportunity to start talking about money and giving a child options and choice, which we'll come to.
Does that include pocket money? And how would you do? Is there a Canna Campbell kind of school of pocket money?
Well, it depends what you think. So I think pocket money is a great way of teaching children about money. Mm-hmm. And the thing, though, with pocket money, you've got to link it to a task. You can't just get $5 for doing nothing. You've got to do some type of task or have some sort of responsibility to take over, whether it be walking the dogs or feeding the dogs or cleaning the backyard or washing cars, whatever it may be. There's got to be a task linked to it. And the one thing I will say is it's about instant reward. And I've learned this actually through a counsellor or actually a child psychologist. You need to instantly reward. So if you're trying to empower your children around money, you can't say, okay, well, I'm going to go, at the end of the week, I'll put $5 in your account. You're better off to actually give them that $5 in the moment. Yeah. Or to sit down in front of them and transfer that $5 into their special savings account, because it's that dopamine hit as well. I mean, there's a lot of neuroscience behind this, but the child's got their reward. They've been instantly fed, and they will be inspired to want to go more, and they'll be more motivated and ambitious to go, I want to earn more money. And this is what brings me to my next thing is choice. So for my son, like if he doesn't do his tasks, there's no pocket money. and he has to understand there's a consequence of not doing these things. But also I give him an opportunity to earn more. So particularly in school holidays.
Yep.
If he wants to earn more, I let him know, well, if you want to earn more, you can. There is that opportunity there. But it does mean you've got to work more and work harder. And, we brainstorm together, okay, well, what are things that would actually really help the family unit? And I'm happy to pay you for. And then finally, the thing I'd say with pocket money and kids is make it consistent. And I'm guilty of this myself because, we have the star system at home and it's going really well, but then we forget it for a few days or a week.
Consistency is the hardest thing in the world, like broadly with parenting, I think.
I agree.
It is just, and I'm so I'm actually really happy to hear the examples that you've given because it kind of reinforces what we do, which is that instant gratification in that they are small figures, like it's like 50 cents or $1 kind of for individual things. And it is about kind of just trying to do it repetitively and build that habit. And the money is kind of transferred immediately and they can see the balance in their bank account going up. And it might only be kind of $5 across the course of the week, but it has been kind of 10 individual tasks that have been done to achieve that.
And it actually makes it easier to be consistent when you do that immediate reward, because that child will then remind you, hey, I want to do that again. So it makes it easier to keep, create that habit system. But the one thing I'll say is I just spoke about giving a child a choice. They have a choice to earn extra money. They have an opportunity to earn extra money. But you're really also helping, it goes beyond the physical money, but you're actually helping them build a work ethic, which,
that's a good point.
Goes far and wide. And you're empowering them. And what I love with my son is that I can see this commercial mindset bubbling and boiling away. And it also really inspires others. Like, my son will talk to his friends about his pocket money or his, what he's doing to earn some extra money. And, his sisters watch him do this. And they're like, my middle child, she's 5. She's now asking me what she can do to earn some money, and starts listing off all these tasks around the house that she could do to earn money. So it has a beautiful flow-on effect if you can apply some of those principles, I think.
And so then do you use those, so once they've kind of got an interest in money, they're starting to earn a little bit of money, is it about encouraging them to set some financial goals, some basic financial goals like saving for a toy or saving for an experience or something, rather than just going out and buying it for them?
Yes. But before I answer that...
That sounded so uncertain. I was like,
No.
yes.
It's something that I think is important that I should have mentioned a second ago but didn't because it just come to me. It's also about teaching children financial independence. So, for example, like when my son has made his $20, for doing stuff around the house over the school holidays, I have to respect what he wants to do with that money. Whether I agree with it or not, it's none of my business. And if he wants to buy something that I know is going to fall apart very quickly or he's not going to enjoy, I have to respect his decision, which sometimes for me is a little bit hard, but that's financial independence. And he has worked hard. I know you're laughing your head off at me, but it sounds silly, but I think it's important to go, all right, I respect you want to spend that hard. You just worked your backside off in the backyard cleaning everything up and spending hours, and you want to go and buy something that's going to last 3 minutes.
They buy something on a whim.
Yes.
They buy something that they've just seen, and all of a sudden it's the one thing the only thing they've ever wanted. They didn't know about it 5 minutes before.
Exactly.
And suddenly this is the thing that they will spend weeks and weeks of savings on, and it will be forgotten a week later.
Or sometimes you know the quality is atrocious. It's going to fall apart, and but you have to respect that. But also that is let them see what financial independence is, because that is an element of financial independence. It's their money. They spend it. They're standing on their own 2 feet, and that's what comes into that element of financial empowerment. But to go back to your question, about goals. Yes, I love having goals, explaining, okay, well, let's step down and come up with a goal together. And what I would recommend is making it a short goal, making it a small goal. Don't say, well, by the end of the year, save $1,000. They're going to lose motivation and focus. Go, okay, well, all right, let's have a goal to save $50, by the end of the month. Or if they're younger, $5 by the end of the week. Work with their skill set and obviously make sure it's, age appropriate. But yes, having goals around saving, having goals around investing, and also teaching children about spending money on experiences as well.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the more complex kind of things like investing that you just mentioned, and also how much you should be exposing kids to the financial operations of a household, how much they should know, for instance, about kind of how much your rent is and how much you need to pay to the bank every week in order to keep the mortgage going. Those kinds of things. We'll deal with those in a moment. Kana, we are talking about kids and money, teaching kids about money. And I think we've actually had some really kind of practical advice so far about kids at a younger age with pocket money and teaching some initial steps towards being financially responsible and maybe financially independent at some point. How do you start getting into the more complex financial topics like investing, I suppose, but also things like kind of credit and debt to kids that are perhaps a little bit older, maybe teenagers as well?
So as I sort of said, every child is so incredibly different in the way that their level of interest and what it means and, you know, what their own individual growing money mindset is. But the one thing I will say is keep it respectful and keep it positive. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to talk about, you know, something like a mortgage, use very, very simple terms and simple numbers. Like you wouldn't talk about your $700,000 mortgage. You talk about, for example, a $100 loan. So keep the terminology very, very basic and explain it as, you know, an element of borrowing money and the importance of paying that back and the cost of that loan, and making it as easy as possible for that precious growing little brain to absorb in the best way possible, so they see money as a tool and part of, you know, many other, you know, I guess functions of life, so they're never intimidated or they see money as being bad or wasteful or toxic in any element.
How much would you, though, tell them about the financial operations of the household? Would you tell them kind of how much you earn, for instance, or how much you do owe on your mortgage, or how much the rent is, or how much you spend on groceries each week? Like, how is that an element of trusting them with financial knowledge and using real life examples to illustrate the point? Or is that kind of going a bit beyond the lessons and almost burdening them with too much knowledge and information?
I would keep it at that surface level.
Yeah.
You know, and even, you know, if I had teenage children, I wouldn't be telling my teenage children, you know, what I'm earning or, you know, what the mortgage is.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be saying, yes, I make a living. Yes, I have financial responsibilities of a mortgage, but I don't think we need to overload them with that information. But talk about the importance of having a mortgage and having to, you know, the responsibility of paying it off and the benefits of paying it off. Absolutely. This isn't about sharing numbers. It's about sharing ideas and strategies and mindsets and healthy financial habits, showing your child, this is how I pay my credit card. You know, we pay the credit card bill off every single month. This is how I do my budget or the family budget. This is how we make sure we stick to it. This is our holiday savings account. This is our goal, to save, you know, $10,000 so at the end of the year we can go on a fantastic family holiday. That stuff, yes. I think if you start going down that path of this is the size of our mortgage, this is, you know, the credit card debts, this is the car loans, that's not actually coming from a place of empowerment. You know, that's dumping your financial stress on their shoulders, which is just completely unnecessary and doesn't actually assist them whatsoever. But even if you are stressed about money, showing, okay, we're a little bit worried about this, so this is what we're trying to do right now. And you can just touch on it to say it's really important right now that we stick to our budget because of, you know, things are expensive these days, and this is what we're doing, and come back to this is what we're doing.
I think the best thing that you just said, I mean, everything that you just said was good, right? But my favourite part was that it's not about numbers. It's about strategies, it's about mindsets, and it's about knowledge. And that to me sums it up. Like, I think I was kind of veering down the wrong path here of kind of trying to expose kids to everything and the inner workings of all of this. And this is how much is spent on the groceries each week and all of that kind of thing. Whereas it is more about use those as the themes to explain how a budget works. Use it to explain the responsibility that comes with earning money and making sure that you're allocating enough to each of your expenses and all of those things without burdening them with the actual detail on what it is. That is great. I feel like I've actually learnt a lot today. I mean, and we're not even done. There is actually still some more nuggets of wisdom coming up. Investing. How do you start exposing them to investing? And you mentioned that your son obviously got interested in that quite early. How do you do that?
So when each of my children were born, I invested $1,000 for each of them, and I invested as trustee for them so I could control the money and make the investment decisions. Mm-hmm. But when they turn 18, I can shift that portfolio to them, hopefully, depending on obviously legislation, without triggering any capital gains tax, and that's then their portfolios. But what I would say, and I actually got it wrong for my son because I invested in my plan was to invest in a different stock each year of his birthday, which didn't actually go to plan because became a single mother and I wasn't able to do that. But what I have done for them is put $1,000 into listed investment companies. So they have an immediately diversified investment portfolio, each of them. And I put $1,000, and every now and again I put $1,000 when I can afford it, and only after prioritizing every other responsibility. And it doesn't happen every single year, but when I can do it, it's ready to go. And I reinvest all the dividends so it can compound and grow over time. But I haven't shown the younger girls what their portfolios are, but Rocco's definitely, he'll sit on my lap, we'll open it up online and I'll show him. And, he knows roughly what it's worth. He understands what, reinvesting that income is. And we leave it at that. And he's actually at the stage where, because he's watched it grow and he's actually watched it drop as well, sometimes he actually says to me, look, I got given $100 for my birthday from my grandparents. I'm going to spend 50 of it, but I'd like to give you the other 50. Do you think you could put it in my investment portfolio?
Oh, wow. And
that's because I never push. And the moment I start, rolling, or he looks like he's daydreaming, conversation's over. That window, that lesson for today is finished. And I don't get angry or frustrated. That's where it is. It's really child-led.
I think that's fascinating. And of course, we should actually mention we're talking about kind of some financial...
general educational purposes only. Please don't go, I'm going to go invest in this investment company because Canada does that for her kids.
Yeah, indeed.
That was my goals, my time frame, and my risk profile is different to everyone else's, so don't just copy that.
Yeah, indeed. And look, if you are interested in these kinds of things, then maybe this is a good point at which to start seeking some professional advice.
Exactly.
Talk to a financial planner and ask them for advice based on your own situation and your own goals. What about philanthropy? I mean, it sounds so kind of big when you call it philanthropy. It sounds like you are kind of donating a wing to a hospital or something. But really, we're just talking about essentially charity and donating, and a mindset that is about using your money for good for others, right?
Yeah, supporting others and helping make a difference and helping hopefully make a better future. So if you're wanting to, put some money aside, as part of maybe a family charity, or, using your child's pocket money to teach them about money, what I would say is let that child pick their charity. Mm-hmm. So, I personally donate to World Vision, but that's not a connection for Rocco. He's not interested in that. For him, he would love to contribute to homelessness, because for him, that's he really gets impacted if he sees someone who's homeless in the street. So for him, that's where his charity, his alignment and his value system and his, emotional passion trigger, that's what it is for him. Whereas my daughter probably would be more about animals. So let your child pick the charity that resonates for them.
Do you know what I've seen the Salvation Army doing? And I thought this was really quite effective, in that there was as part of their charity drive ahead of Christmas, right? They send out, it's almost a catalogue, basically. And in it, this is what your donation will buy this Christmas. And so $5 will be this, and $10 would be this, and $50 would be Christmas lunch for a family, and $200 will be the full Christmas experience for a family. And I thought this would actually, I held on to this because I thought this could actually be really useful to sit down with the kids and go through it and say, this is kind of charity at work. And it's a really good visual representation of what that money donated can actually do, the good that it can do and the value that it can bring to other people's lives. I thought it was a really effective strategy.
Oh, absolutely. And they can see the difference. And I think that's probably why for my son, he cannot walk past a homeless person without giving them money. And obviously he doesn't have money on him, so he'll turn to me and say, give me your wallet, basically.
Yeah.
But, because it's that visual aid, it's confronting, it's alarming, and you want to be, we need to show children that they are part of the solution. And as I said, helping make a world a better place, but also never forget the power of volunteering as well.
Yeah, good point.
A $10 donation versus 5 hours of volunteer work. I mean, that's potentially worth more, and it could be of greater assistance. So, that also instills a sense of responsibility and compassion as well. When you're in the moment, you are handing out food to homeless people, you are, walking dogs, you are, teaching people things like you are cleaning up garbage from the ocean or from the beaches, whatever it may be. That volunteering is equally as powerful and valuable.
I've only got 2 minutes left, and I want to try and cram 2 questions into those 2 minutes. And I'm sorry to do this and make you answer these really quickly. The first one is largely just kind of out of my own curiosity about the mistakes that you have seen. Have you seen parents making mistakes when they are trying to teach their kids about money? And I can just think of a number of them that I have made personally. But what are the common ones, the errors that people do make when they are trying to teach young people about money?
Keeping things too private. We can't talk about that in front of the kids. I think that really underestimates and devalues and is an insult to a child.
As long as you're kind of not getting into, I suppose, the nitty gritty of the... So it doesn't conflict with what we were saying before.
Yeah. And then obviously speaking about just the problem, getting stuck into the, we have no money, we're broke, rather than actually talking about the solutions, which, we've spoken about lots of times, the importance of getting out of that mindset and looking at what you do want and focusing on what you can do to help get there. Obviously undermining a child's knowledge and intuition. That was a really interesting one where I saw a grandchild actually give some actually really sensible advice to her grandparents about their finances. And I think that they were stuck in a situation they couldn't see the forest from the trees. They were overwhelmed. And we forget a child has a brilliant perspective.
Yeah.
And they see things that we don't see. And this little girl shown the most amazing insight and words of wisdom to help these grandparents make a really sensible decision. But the one I would say is the biggest one and the most frustrating one that I think comes with long-term repercussions is bailing kids out when they make a mistake.
Oh, okay.
My daughter got in credit card debt. I've got to go pay that $20,000 of credit card debt off. That is the worst thing you could possibly do because they are then missing out on the opportunity to learn. And I've touched on this before, is when we just give our children all the time. You're robbing them of the sense of pride and satisfaction of doing it themselves and building up their own work ethic and understanding delayed gratification and how sacrifices work and how they're worth it or not, sometimes not. So, the importance of teaching value and respect of money is so incredibly important. And I think, that's those 2 issues, bailing kids out and just giving them everything on a silver platter is fraught with trouble.
Now, I said we had 2 minutes for 2 questions and you blew your entire 2 minutes.
Sorry,
That's okay. That's okay. I will give you a 30-second extension. Apps, online tools, I love a good app and various I like shortcuts. Really, that's what it all boils down to. Anything that you can recommend for teaching kids about money?
A lot of my friends have Spriggy accounts.
Spriggy? Okay.
But can I just say, we don't run our financial lives through an app. I don't go shortcut. Sit down with your children, talk to them.
Feels very personal.
Take them through step by step, particularly, when they get their first job, help invest time in them to help them become great investors with their money. How to set up a bank account, explain to them what a budget is and how to, sit down and do a budget with them to explain and teach them boundaries and help them come up with simple financial goals. So an app can be helpful.
Yeah.
But it's a fraction of the whole story with children and money.
It feels like we could fill several more episodes talking about this topic. There is so much more that I wanted to talk about. Older kids, kind of when they're getting their first job and all these kinds of things. But we'll have to save that for another day. Where can we find you if we would like more information?
The best place to reach out to me is on Instagram at Sugar Mama TV.
And you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And the very best thing that you can do is to tell somebody else, or better yet, send them this episode if you think that they might benefit from listening to it. If they've got kids and they might benefit from some of Canna's words of wisdom, send it along and spread the word about How Do They Afford That? Thank you very much for your company. Join us again next week.